So, my friend, together we've unraveled the deep layers of Chechnya, revealing geographical and political curiosities that shape the destiny of nations. You've seen how the pursuit of stability can cost freedom. But now, what will you do with this knowledge? Will you merely be surprised, or will you use it to look at your own life with that same depth? Think about it. If freedom is so fragile, what's stopping you from fighting for your own? What internal regimes do you need to question? True wisdom lies in applying what you learn. If this journey has inspired you to go beyond the obvious, then you're on the right path. Don't let this flame die out. To continue exploring the world's curiosities and enhancing your vision, do yourself a favor, leave your like on this content, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. The next step in this adventure of knowledge is waiting for you. When we think of Europe, images of historic cities, bucolic landscapes, and consolidated democracies immediately come to mind, don't they? But what if I told you that, in a not-so-distant corner of this continent, there exists a region whose reality challenges this perception, a place shrouded in mysteries and conflicts that few truly understand? We're talking about Chechnya, a small republic in the geography of the North Caucasus, which, due to its strategic location and turbulent history, has become a geopolitical flashpoint. It's one of those curiosities that makes us question what we really know about our own continent. Located between the majestic Caucasus Mountains and the northern plains, Chechnya has always been a crossroads of cultures, empires, and religions. Its mountainous geography, though beautiful, also served as a natural refuge for resistance against invaders, shaping a people with a strong identity and a deep connection to their land. This strategic position, however, also placed it in the path of great powers, transforming it into a stage for disputes for centuries, a true hot spot on the map. Chechen history is a saga of resistance and struggle for autonomy, marked by countless invasions and attempts at subjugation. From the times of the Russian Empire to the Soviet era, the Chechen people have refused to be assimilated, maintaining their traditions, their language, and their Islamic faith. These geographical and historical curiosities are crucial to understanding the current complexity of the region, setting the stage for us to delve into the roots of this secular conflict that still echoes today. You know, history has a peculiar way of showing us that, no matter how much we try to turn the page, the past insists on haunting us. And in Chechnya's case, the roots of its conflict with Russia are so deep that they go back to the times of the Russian Empire, long before any modern ideology. It was a struggle for territory, for culture, and, above all, for freedom, that has dragged on for centuries. It's one of those historical curiosities that make us see how the seeds of discord can be planted long before any of us are born. The expansion of the Russian Empire towards the Caucasus, starting in the 18th century, met fierce resistance from the mountain peoples, and the Chechens were on the front lines. Led by legendary figures like Imam Shamil, they fought bloody wars against the Tsarist forces, defending their independence tooth and nail. The rugged geography of the region, with its mountains and valleys, served as a natural refuge and an ideal battlefield for guerrilla warfare, making Russian domination difficult. This long and brutal history of conquest and resistance created deep distrust and lasting resentment between Chechens and Russians. The mass deportations under Stalin, for example, are a wound that has never healed, a constant reminder of the oppression suffered. The geographical curiosities about the region, with its strategic position and resources, only added to the complexity of this scenario, setting the stage for the wars that would come after the collapse of the Soviet Union, when Chechnya would once again attempt its independence. You know, my friend, history shows us that when an empire crumbles, old wounds tend to reopen, and struggles for autonomy, once suppressed, resurface with full force. That's exactly what happened with Chechnya after the collapse of the Soviet Union. The hope for independence, ignited by decades of resistance, violently collided with Russia's determination to maintain its territorial integrity. The result? Two brutal wars that turned Chechnya into a living hell. It's one of those tragic curiosities that make us question the price of freedom. The First Chechen War, 1994 to 1996, was a shock to the world. Russian forces, who expected a quick victory, encountered fierce and well-organized resistance, led by Chechen fighters who knew every inch of their mountainous geography. Grozny, the capital, was reduced to rubble, but Chechen determination prevailed, forcing Russia into a humiliating retreat. It was a real woe for Russian military might, a reminder that the will of a people can be stronger than tanks and planes. However, peace was short-lived. The Second Chechen War, 1999 to 2009, more brutal and systematic, marked Russia's return with an implacable determination to crush the insurgency. This time, the Russian tactic was different, and the Chechen resistance, though heroic, was gradually suffocated. The geographical curiosities of the region, with its mountains and forests, which once served as refuge, now became traps, setting the stage for the rise of a new leadership and a forced normalization. You know, my friend, history shows us that, amidst chaos and destruction, controversial figures can emerge, promising order and stability, but at a price. And that's exactly what happened in Chechnya with the rise of Ramzan Kadyrov. Son of Ahmad Kadyrov, a former mufti who switched sides and allied with Moscow, Ramzan inherited power after his father's assassination, becoming the undisputed leader of the republic. It's one of those political curiosities that make us question the tortuous paths power can take. With the Kremlin's unrestricted support, Kadyrov consolidated his dominion over Chechnya with an iron fist. He implemented a policy of Chechenization of the conflict, using local forces loyal to him to suppress any form of opposition or insurgency. The geography of Chechnya, once a battlefield, was gradually normalized under his regime, with the reconstruction of Grozny and the imposition of a rigid order, which many critics point out as authoritarian and repressive. This forced normalization, my friend, was accompanied by unquestioning loyalty to Moscow and a growing Islamization of Chechen society, under Kadyrov's interpretation. He became a polarizing figure, praised by some for bringing stability and criticized by others for violating human rights and creating a personality cult. The geographical curiosities about the region, with its complex mix of culture and politics, only added to the controversy surrounding his government, setting the stage for the discussion about the price of this stability. You know, my friend, stability is a precious commodity, but what price is a society willing to pay for it? In Kadyrov's Chechnya, this stability came at an extremely high cost in terms of human rights and individual freedoms. Reports of kidnappings, torture, extrajudicial killings, and persecution of opponents and minorities, especially the LGBTQIA+ community, are frequent and alarming. It's one of those dark curiosities that make us question the true nature of the peace imposed by authoritarian regimes. International organizations and human rights activists have consistently denounced the violations committed under Kadyrov's regime. Freedom of expression is practically non-existent, and any criticism of the government or its policies is severely repressed. The geography of Chechnya, though rebuilt on its surface, hides a reality of fear and silence for many of its inhabitants, where dissent is dangerous and justice is often selective. This systematic repression, my friend, is the dark side of Chechen normalization. It raises fundamental questions about the state's responsibility to protect its citizens and about the limits of power. The geographical curiosities about the region, with its history of resistance and struggle for freedom, make this reality even more paradoxical, setting the stage for understanding the complexity of Islamic influence and the rise of radicalism. You know, my friend, faith is a powerful force, capable of moving mountains and inspiring acts of great devotion, but also, unfortunately, of being distorted to justify acts of violence and extremism. In Chechnya, the Islamic religion has always been a pillar of national identity, a refuge against Russian oppression. However, the power vacuum and the brutality of the Chechen Wars opened space for the rise of more radical interpretations of Islam, transforming the struggle for independence into a jihad. It's one of those complex curiosities that make us reflect on the intersection between faith, politics, and conflict. The rise of radical Islamic groups, many with ties to international terrorist organizations, further complicated the Chechen scenario. What began as a nationalist struggle for self-determination gradually transformed into a conflict with broader religious and ideological dimensions. The geography of the region, with its porous borders and proximity to other areas of instability in the Caucasus, facilitated the infiltration and spread of these ideologies, making Chechnya a focus of concern for regional and global security. Under Kadyrov's regime, there was a forced Islamization of society, with the imposition of stricter Islamic laws and customs, which, paradoxically, may have both contained and fueled certain forms of radicalism. The geographical curiosities about the region, with its ethnic and religious diversity, only added to the complexity of this scenario, setting the stage for the final discussion: is Chechnya, in fact, a North Korea, in the heart of Europe? You know, my friend, the question that hangs in the air, and that set the tone for our entire conversation, is whether today's Chechnya can be compared to North Korea. At first glance, the similarities are chilling: a leader with a personality cult, brutal repression of any dissent, rigid control over information, and a society that operates under a regime of fear. The political geography of Chechnya, although part of the Russian Federation, functions with an autonomy that, in practice, isolates it and subjects it to its own rules, often opaque. It's one of those curiosities that makes us think about the different models of social and political control. However, it's crucial to note the differences. Chechnya, unlike North Korea, is not a sovereign state and is integrated, albeit controversially, into the Russian Federation. There is a flow, however limited, of people and information, and its economy, though dependent on subsidies from Moscow, is not as isolated as North Korea's. The geography of Chechnya, embedded in a region of great effervescence, prevents total isolation. Still, the Chechen reality is a grim reminder of how the pursuit of stability can lead to the suppression of fundamental freedoms and rights. The geographical curiosities about the region, with its history of resistance and strategic position, make the situation even more complex and worthy of our attention. It's a case study on the price of imposed peace and the challenges of building a just and free society after decades of conflict and authoritarianism. So, my friend, together we've unraveled the deep layers of Chechnya, revealing geographical and political curiosities that shape the destiny of nations. You've seen how the pursuit of stability can cost freedom. But now, what will you do with this knowledge? Will you merely be surprised, or will you use it to look at your own life with that same depth? Think about it: if freedom is so fragile, what's stopping you from fighting for your own? What internal regimes do you need to question? True wisdom lies in applying what you learn. If this journey has inspired you to go beyond the obvious, then you're on the right path. Don't let this flame die out. To continue exploring the world's curiosities and enhancing your vision, do yourself a favor: leave your like on this content, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. The next step in this adventure of knowledge is waiting for you.